In the previous video in this series, I showed you some of the many ways that you can tool Bondo. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can actually build a model with the plastic. At the very end of that video, you saw a little prototype of a cell phone holder. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to build another little cell phone holder. What I'm doing right now is I'm creating a little sketch, and we are going to go ahead and we're going to prototype out this concept of my design. My name is 𝗕𝘀𝗶𝗃. I'm an industrial designer. Welcome to my channel about product design and making. I hope that you like, enjoy, and become a subscriber. Make sure that you hit that little bell next to the subscribe button too, in case you haven't already done so. That way you'll be notified every time I have a new video. In the previous polyester body filler video, you saw me cast this block of Bondo inside of one of my reusable mold boxes. Make sure that you're wearing a respirator. Be safe. Let's start cutting up this block of Bondo into a few little pieces so we can start to make it look like the sketch. Once I've got those pieces cut off, I'm going to do some basic sanding of the pieces to get them to the right rough shape and size. Here you see me drilling some holes into the block of Bondo. And the reason for this is we're going to use Bondo itself to bond all the pieces together. And to ensure that we get a really good bond, I'm just drilling these little holes so that the Bondo has additional surface area to grab. Make sure you wear an organic respirator since it is polyester resin and it's toxic. It's better than lead, but you should still wear a respirator. I also have an exhaust fan in my shop and I run that at the same time. So let's mix up a little bit of polyester resin. The correct proportion is about 2%. That's pretty impossible to measure out. You're probably always going to be in the neighborhood of about 5 to 10%, something like that. You want to get a really nice, even consistency, just like I have here. Once you have a nice mix, you need to work quickly. The Bondo will probably set up in about 5 to 7 minutes. I apply the Bondo where I need it to where I'm going to glue the two pieces together. Unlike regular material, let's say like wood, if you were going to glue this together, you would have to clamp it and wait for the glue to set. The Bondo dries quite quickly. I feel you don't even need a pair of clamps to hold the stuff together. Once it's set, you're good. And I come back and I just trim off the little excess with X-Acto blade. Do that with yellow glue. Wear some gloves. The Bondo tends to get everywhere. If you think you're not going to get this stuff on your hands, you're kidding yourself and you should stop watching the video right now. We're going to mix up a little bit more Bondo and we're going to glue that previous piece onto the main block. This is the great thing about the Bondo. You can work very quickly. As soon as the Bondo dries, you can clean it up, mix up some more, and glue the next piece on. It allows you to work very rapidly and efficiently. Yes, you could use super glue. I'm not a big fan, so I'm sticking with the same material, bonding to itself. Again, I trim off the excess rubbery body filler and I move on to the next step. We're going to mix up a little bit more again, and here we're going to actually put in an inside fillet. I have a little piece of wood that I've radiused to the correct fillet size, and I rub it through my section, and I'm able to get that fillet in there. It's going to take me a couple of times to get it perfect, but it's a great way to get a perfect inside even radius. Here we're going to put on one more coat, swipe it one time, that's good enough. Come back with a straight blade here, and again, trimming off the stuff, and I'm just using what I have in my hand, scraping this Bondo flat. It's easier than sanding. Next, I'm moving on to a file. The model is still in its early form, and so I'm not going to get too crazy with the details yet. I'm just roughing things out, making sure that I got the basic form that I want. I'm using a tiny little bit of sandpaper here. It's an emery cloth. It's quite coarse, and I just want to make sure that my fillet is good before I continue to work on the big machines. I'm back on the sander here, and I'm just making my block square. Now I'm moving on to the oscillating spindle sander, where I'm going to start to put in some of these inside concave forms that the part has. We're switching out, going to a different size spindle, and we can start to put in these inside radiuses and give the part its unique, interesting form. Basically, I'm removing the stuff that's not needed to hold the phone. Here, I'm using a table router, and I'm routing out all the edges. Super easy, nice. And I'm going to put in some little finger grips on the ends of the cell phone holder. They weren't in my sketch, but I felt it would be a really nice detail to have these on the end. A little bit of tactile feedback so that you can grab the cell phone holder and move it from place to place. Now we're going to move on to the glazing putty. And as I mentioned before, this is like a finer version of the polyester resin. Glazing putty is great for filling little holes and doing fine little details. Here I've radiused out a piece of wood, and I'm doing this little inside fillet, and I'm just dragging it around the radius of the part. So I use the rest of the glazing putty to fill little pinholes and imperfections in the Bondo block. It works great for that. Before it gets too hard, I'm back to using my straight blade here, and I'm just sort of cleaning up everything, and I'm going to be moving on to some of the finer tools here. So I'm using about 120 grit sandpaper right here. I do love to wet dry sand everything, but in the interest of just moving everything along and not having to move the cameras around, I'm just going to dry sand everything. I am wearing a respirator for this, and I suggest that you do too, so that you don't get the dust inside of your body. I am always using a sanding block, whether it's a straight flat piece or a tube as I was using before. Here I'm using a file, a metal file, so I can get those inside radiuses. Here I'm using a sanding block. It happens to be a piece of pink insulation, as it's going to help me do these softer outside radiused forms, but I'm always using a sanding block. I am never using just my fingers, because that will not give you good results. I've switched over to a 220 grit sandpaper. I'm still using a sanding block, and I'm always going to do that so that I get good quality surfaces. In terms of sketch model building or model building like this, it probably took me about a half a day to knock out this little concept sketch mock-up. And here's the final thing. It really needs some primer at this point, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Now, one of the reasons that I like to use the Polyester Body filler is that the weight of the material is really nice. It's a little heavier than wood, and it's just nice and substantial. I like it. I really hope you enjoyed this build. The next video, we're going to take a look at extruding, making flexible parts, and doing what I call a Bondo squeeze. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can click on the little icon on the bottom right of the screen to do that. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. Rock on. Click here to watch some of the other design and making videos that I have. If you'd like to have your music featured in one of my videos, drop me a line.